Well, that's a good question because it's actually the accumulation of the last 35 years of putting everything together that, I've been in business for the same number of years, 35 years, 35 businesses, and all
Yeah,
that
wow.
stuff that we had. We've always been doing this, but we basically put it under the one umbrella of the name Innovest. In fact, we first launched as in 2015 under the name of Macquarie Business Consulting. I don't know if you knew that, but what
Okay.
happened was
I didn't know.
in 2015,
I think we've lost
cut out
Rick
again.
there again.
Can you hear
Sorry,
me?
yeah, it's cut out a bit again.
Yeah, but
So
in
Rick, I reckon
2015 I couldn't work
yeah.
because I had to take the year off to look after mum and dad.
Oh, sorry to hear that. Yeah, okay.
It's, yeah, and ultimately they both passed away, but it was a horrible year. And so
Yeah, sorry to hear.
that year, when I came back in 2016, the every man and his dog was a coach, it seemed. And we had a brand called Kick-Ass, and we launched a
Okay.
book called Kick-Ass, How to 10X Your Bottom Line. And in 2015, during that period, it seemed that everyone picked up on the name Kick-Ass as well. So
Nice.
we basically started with the name of Innovest and put
Yep.
all of our IP under that one umbrella. And then we opened up an incubator and we co-working space and a third-party logistics warehouse, and basically created this big community of about 50 professional service providers, if you will. And
Yeah.
so I forgot to congratulate you though on that.
Oh, thanks, Rick. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's great meeting new people every day. We obviously knew each other prior to this, but yeah, it's fantastic to yeah, just gain different perspectives, not only on business but on life and things like that. So I'm enjoying it. It's fun.
I don't know if you get any sleep, do you?
Yeah, of course. I like sleep. But yeah, look, it's I got some bags under my eyes today, but it is what it is. So you just got to do what you got to do.
Not as big as mine.
Oh shit. Yeah. But no, Rick, I mean, yeah, it
So
sounds like
just back to your question.
yeah, definitely jump on in.
Back to your question, I guess the biggest thing that we do in amongst Innovest is training, coaching, and then consulting. But the number one thing that we've got happening now is this whole thing, which we might talk about at some point, around qualifications to go into business. And of course, a lot of people
Yeah.
don't have any. It's interesting. Only on I think it was last Tuesday night. It was on Q&A. The Australian Chamber of Commerce guy, I forget his name, James Pearson, he said that 60% of every small business owner in Australia is earning less than $50,000. It's just insane.
Really?
Isn't it?
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So part of Innovest
Because if you
is
had
to
a 9
try
to
and
5, yeah,
improve that situation. Yeah.
that's good. Because if you had a 9 to 5 and you were earning under 50K, you'd really be looking for a new job.
That's right. So the point is that all those guys earning 50K, running those businesses, working really long hours, are generally earning less than what they're paying the people that work with them or for them. And they're
Yeah,
working,
wow.
really long hours. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Giving up 40 hours to work 80 hours, like it's yeah, it's crazy. But it's part
That's
of it is
right.
just the love of working in a business. I guess the creation of something new. There's so many different factors. The autonomy that despite you're working 80 hours, you're choosing those hours that you're working. So if you want to sleep in, you can. So all these different factors definitely come into play.
That's right. I mean, you can't get, irrespective, you can't get that freedom if you're obviously working 9 to 5. So the two biggest parameters of people that we tend to work with are people that are time poor and cash flow challenged.
Yeah, two big things there. So that's fantastic. Imagine you've helped a lot of
Yeah,
businesses.
yeah.
Yeah,
Can you
beautiful.
still hear me?
So yeah, I mean, I can. It cuts in and out a little bit, so that's why there's just a little bit of a lag there. But I can definitely hear at the moment. So yeah, please continue. I'd love to hear more.
Okay. Well, in terms of what we do, I guess I've got this really weird business card, right? It didn't work out quite right, but when you fold it open, it has a summary on the back with those three color codes, right? And the first one says,
Yeah, that's cool.
accelerating profitability through co-working space, reception, meeting, training facilities, all that back-end stuff, outsourcing, you know a lot about that. 3PL and
Yep.
warehousing.
Yeah.
Learning is through entrepreneurial training, mentoring and coaching, advising and consulting, which is what we just spoke about, and
Yeah.
of course the incubator and the accelerator. So with Innovest, what we try to do is to keep people out of what is known as the trough of sorrow. And the trough of sorrow is where most entrepreneurs find themselves. In fact, it's more than 90% end up in the trough. So it's all really good at the beginning, and then they tend to, due to a lack of customers or getting into cash flow difficulties, end up in a scenario where it's very hard to come out of that trough of what we call the trough of sorrow. It was, who was the guy that coined the phrase? One of the big startup incubators or accelerators, Paul Graham from Y Combinator in the States, he coined the phrase. And part of my big thing is to try and help people not get in there in the first place, and if they're in there, get out of it, because it's more than 90%.
Yeah, well, get out of there ASAP.
Nowhere near enough to. Yeah. Yeah, so that's something that we do. We really focus on that. And the big thing, Ross, is, and I'm really passionate about this, is that the majority, more than 49% of people self-reported mental health issues in a recent state university study in the States for going through that startup entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
And
That
in
doesn't surprise me.
Australia, I mean, I had no idea of that number. And, when you think about it, when you look at why businesses fail, the number one reason is a lack of business knowledge. And that's something that, is very close to my heart, because I myself went through this in the 80s in my first business, which went from 20 grand in the first year to 100 grand in 5 years. Sorry, 1 million, over 1 million in 5 years. But then we had the recession we had to have, thanks to Paul Keating, and the turnover dropped by 70%. And I had to basically start again. I didn't go under, but I almost went under. I had to close the shops that I had. I had to let all the staff go back home, and basically start again. But I stuck with my primary income stream, my primary income niche, and learned from the lessons of the blunders when I was keeping about 1 cent in the dollar in the 80s, and I was keeping 30 cents in the dollar when I restructured the business.
Yeah.
In the 90s. And so it's those lessons that I learned in the 80s, which we in Innovest still use today to teach entrepreneurs, SMEs and startups in all of our training.
Yeah.
It's a really good case study. It's a really good case study because it demonstrates about everything, what not to do. If you focus on revenue like I did, which is just the top, and not monitoring cash flow, not doing cash flow forecasts, not looking at your profitability, and in particular the cash in the bank as and when it's needed, that's where it all goes pear-shaped.
Yeah, exactly. If you're so focused on just revenue and then nothing else, it can really just blind you, and you realize that hiding under some sheets or some
That's
towels
right.
isn't the answer.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And if your turnover goes up by 300% or threefold from this year compared to last year, but your expenses go up fourfold, you know that it's only a matter of time before they're going to crash those two curves,
Yeah,
and that can bring you undone completely.
yeah, definitely.
And at any point in time, at any one point in time, in Australia, 87% of businesses are suffering from cash flow issues.
Yeah,
So
wow, that's a huge number.
cash flow is king. Yeah. And did you know that 66% of every business in Australia that goes under was actually profitable? And that was
Really,
from a recent ASIC report.
that's interesting.
So when you put all the numbers together, it's pretty horrible because you can have all the profits in the world. A really good resource for your group is a thing called entrepreneur.com cash flow calculator.
Okay.
And it's free. You can
Yep.
punch all your details in there, and it allows you to graphically see what's happening with your cash flow and what's likely to happen in the future. And that takes into account everything: working capital, receivables, payables, the works.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. So that was
Entrepreneur.com cash flow
entrepreneur.com
calculator.
forward slash cash flow? Cash flow calculator. Okay, cool.
Yeah, cash flow calculator. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I was going to offer your listeners if they want to get a free copy of Business Success for Life, to contact you or me, and we'll get a copy of that to them. Right? It's about
Thank you.
170 pages. That's a really good book. And I've got something special as well at the end for the people tuned in.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much. So for everyone that's with posters, though, everyone's going to still sort that out just because a lot of the members here are overseas. But yeah, thank you so much, Rick. That's phenomenal. So I appreciate that.
I'll just do it by ebook.
Oh, by email. Oh, even better then. Yeah, email's free. Everyone wins. Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So yeah, I mean that's such an incredible story, and from it going up and down and then back up again is just one of those journeys where sometimes these things happen. But it sounds like you've gone through such a lot, and you've come out on top, and you're doing phenomenally. Yeah, that's incredible. So I guess just from everything we've discussed in regards to the cash flow situation, things like that, how would people listening in at home, how would they better handle their finances when it comes to cash flow and monitoring everything?
That's a great question. So, the number one thing that I would say to people in business is to focus on, in terms of improving their cash flow, their top 5 revenue variables. So, there's no strategies to find customers. There's only strategies to find leads or prospects. Okay, so if you go marketing times your sales process to convert those leads, marketing times sales equals number of customers. If you then, that's your 2 top variables, then multiply that by the impact experience, multiply that by the post experience, and that will equal basically your revenue. Multiply that by your margin, that will equal your GP. Take away your expenses, that's equal to your bottom line. So those 5 revenue variables, and there hasn't been a business yet that I haven't worked with where we haven't been able to achieve this, and I'm talking about my own businesses as well.
Yeah.
If you improve each one of those on average by 10%, you'll improve the top 5, you'll improve your GP by 61%.
Wow.
If you improve just the top 4 by 10%, you'll improve your GP by 46%. So if you can take off 10% from your expenses as well, it's possible to increase your bottom line as much as up to 800% purely by focusing on these things. So, I mean, if you start bringing into play all sorts of other variables around how to convert better, for example, using persuasion and having proper follow-up. I mean, only 1% of every business creates raving fans. It's only 1 in 100.
Yeah, wow.
So how do you create a raving fans? By giving them an amazing customer experience. Only one person out of every 100 that goes to get, into martial arts to get a black belt actually gets one. Only, if you look in Australia, in terms of statistics, only 1 out of every 100 businesses at 10 years are thriving. Okay, so the thing is, you've really got to aim high to and look at every single thing that's in your expenses to try and reduce your expenses in order to maximize your bottom line. When I give talks and so forth, I always ask people who does cash flow forecasts, and a few hands will go up, and I'll say, keep your hand up. Who can last for 3 months without any new customers? A couple of hands will drop down. Keep it up. How many months can you last? And by the time I say, can you last 12 months without new customers? The fact is that most people can't, right? So getting new customers is critical. But what most people focus on is spending their money on generating new leads and not on the process of converting those leads into customers and/or using Pareto's principles and Parkinson's laws and so forth to convert the people that they're already doing business with. I mean, it's so much easier to do business with people we know than the people we don't know, right?
Of course. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
What most business owners tend to do. Yeah. And what most business owners tend to do is they tend to focus on, when they think they need to improve their cash flow, is to go and get more leads. And I've worked with businesses that are losing as much as 10, 20, even one was $30 for every $100 he collected. And his solution to the problem of getting his cash flow sorted is to go and get more new customers, which is the last thing in the world you want to do. You want to have less customers in that situation.
Yeah, definitely.
And
absolutely.
So my business in the 80s was exactly fitting into that category, because it was costing me too much to service the customers. So, things like money back guarantee, it's statutory. So why don't most people offer it anyway?
Yeah. And
if you do, it'll improve the bottom line. Sorry, it'll improve your conversion by as much as 25%, depending on the industry.
Yeah, definitely.
There's so many things in terms of getting paid. Yeah, and in terms of getting paid faster, there's so many strategies that you can incorporate to get paid faster. That's another discussion, but I've got a book on that. If anyone would like a copy of that book, I'm happy to give them a copy of that. That's about how to get paid faster and handling difficult customers, particularly. That's okay. In fact, if you go to, well, I'll tell you later, I suppose, but on our website, there's a bunch of resources there.
Yeah, fantastic.
But,
well, yeah, at the end, we'll make sure we drop all the links as well, so people can check out your website.
Okay, great. That'd be good. But yeah, cash flow. The thing is about cash flow, right? People think of it as just how to pay the bills on time and getting paid faster.
Yeah.
But it's not just about that. It's about everything to do with the business. And usually, those top 5 variables are the key to solving cash flow issues and getting paid faster. So getting paid faster can be tricky because you don't want to upset your customers. Some other things around cash flow, I guess, in terms of your expenses, every little thing counts. I'll never forget Jerry Harvey saying, I think it was Jerry Harvey, he walks into the office and if he sees a paperclip on the floor, he'll pick it up and put it in the box with all the other ones.
Yeah, fair enough. Whatever you got to do to save cash.
That's right. That's it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, look, everyone wants to be a tiger. Everyone wants to be a tiger, and they want to, if you compare the tiger to the turtle is able to live for 100, 200, even up to 500 years. The tiger lives for maybe 10 years. The turtle can eat anything. It's resilient. And that's the thing. By becoming resilient and making your business so it's able to, cop a whack like what happened with that recession and the GFC in 2008. The only way you're going to be able to do that is by having proper cash flow management. 90% of every business that goes under in Australia is due to cash flow issues.
Makes sense. It's understandable for sure.
Cash
so Rick,
flow is a big subject.
Yeah, absolutely. And some incredible value there so far. So, thank you for coming on and sharing all of this with us. If you are listening in at home, we'd love to hear from you. John, dropping some great comments there. If you are getting value from this, if you could drop hashtag value in the comments, we'd love to hear from you. Or if you're on the replay, hashtag team replay, because we want to know you're getting some fantastic value from this at a later date. That way, when we do drop the links, you'll get notified. So, Rick, I guess, earlier we touched base on regards to the interesting point that a lot of businesses, there's really no qualifications for business, or there's very few qualifications. And I find that a very interesting point, because obviously the more qualified people are to run business is they're going to last a lot longer, much like the turtle analogy you gave there. Let's dive into that there. So what's your thoughts on the whole no qualifications in business?
Well, number one, we all should be thinking like the turtle, right? But yeah, look, I'm qualified to deliver something like the diploma of business. When I ask questions to audiences, who's qualified to be, who has a business ownership qualification, a couple of hands go up. Then I say, oh, that's cool. So what have you got? Now, a person says an MBA. I might ask another person, what have you got? DipBiz, whatever. Those degrees and diplomas and qualifications do not prepare you to go into business and own a business. So
definitely not.
The problem, no, they don't, and they've got great content. MBA is really good for the big end of town and corporate and so forth. But, we will spend so many years educating ourselves to become a really good technician or a trainee or whatever. And then we may go into business and be flat out spending a few days educating ourselves on how to run our business, any business. So people go into business, by the time they get there, it's too late. And so the damage starts straight away. It might be good for the first month, it's a great idea, and then boom, it drops and reality sets in. And in terms of the happiness curve, we become, most of us become very depressed because we've got that whole cash flow thing going on, right? Yeah. So then we realize that we're earning less than we would have been earning if we were still kept our old day job. So the thing is, in terms of business qualifications, they don't exist in terms of preparing you for business. I have created this 3-day course called the Business Ownership Practitioner Certification, and that covers most of the things that you need to know in order to know what to do, or at least the people to ask subsequent once you are in business. So it's even for those who go through our accelerator as a startup, we recommend that they would go through this stuff, covering such topics as legalities, sales, obviously, marketing, time and productivity, all the usual things. In fact, there's 10 top pillars. I worked with a guy recently. He had a business which he made $250,000 in the first year from his bedroom.
Fantastic.
That business went to $16 million and 120 staff within 4 years.
Wow.
He was master's qualified. And this is not the only story like this, right? This is just a ripper.
Yeah.
And that particular entrepreneur had never dealt with a lawyer. He'd never dealt with the ACCC. It never dealt with the DFT. For the people overseas, they are our regulatory bodies. And for the simplest thing, to cut a long story short, that business is no longer despite its profitability. So
Wow.
when you look
That's
at these
unfortunate.
courses, it is, it's horrible. And you know, the pain and suffering and so forth that goes on. Generally, I would say at best or at worst, 90% preventable if they had that knowledge. From us, they can get it
I'm
from
sorry, Rick,
anywhere else,
we've just
but
lost
they've
you
got to
there for
put
a
that
moment.
time in.
Sorry
Am I
about.
back?
Yeah, I hope so. I think so. But yeah, we kind of missed that
Can
whole
you hear
last
me?
bit. Yeah, I can hear you okay now. Yeah, I think we're good
Oh, you
again.
missed that bit.
Yeah,
Oh, that was the best bit.
damn.
I was saying that people, am I there still?
Yeah, still there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. So if what people need to do that want to go into business or are in business, I mean, obviously if they're in business and they're doing really well, this doesn't apply to them so much, but there's a minimum base level of knowledge you need to be able to basically consider all the things that can go wrong and happen in business. So my recommendation to people is to think about educating yourself about how to run a business before you actually go into business. Now, startup accelerators will help you with that. But there's a lot of accelerators, the majority of people that apply to go in, they get rejected. So where do they go?
okay, yeah.
I mean, if you look at the statistics, 97.3% of startups fail at getting funding. And 95% of startups that even get some funding, even they fail. So the numbers, and that's for some reason in Australia, it's much higher than anywhere else that I know of, at least. I mean, if you take the world is 88%. 137,000 a day start and 120,000 fail.
Yeah.
Our numbers are much higher than
Wow.
that. So one of the things I say to people is to become investable. And what I mean investable, I mean not just about the business, but about the person. So that angels or VCs or anyone, including prospects that may want to, do business with you, they are impressed by you enough that you're going to take care of their money or their investment. So a big chunk of our training that we provide is around helping people become investable, not just the idea. A lot of accelerators, they focus on the idea and they focus on developing the concept. I mean, we all talk about these wonderful things like Airbnb and Uber and so forth, but and we hear things like Zuckerberg and Musk and how fantastic, and what we don't tend to hear about is the fact that the majority of people fail before they even start.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's not that hard to learn this knowledge. It's not like you're going to go and do another degree. It can be done in 3 days. Ideally, you do a bit more after that, but that's at least the minimum.
Yeah.
To answer your question, there is no such thing as a business ownership qualification, and they don't exist until now.
Yeah. Okay. So until now, so is that's something you offer, or is it? Sorry, Rick.
That's right.
Oh, cool.
We created it. We launched it.
Yep.
We launched it at StartCon last year, where there was 4,000 startups at the Randwick Racecourse up here in Sydney.
Yep.
And then after that, the very next weekend, we launched it here in Sydney, and we had 15 people go through, and it was fantastic. And from here on in, now that's going to be, basically we curated it over all those years. Now we are going to be delivering that on a regular basis. So for what might be of interest to you is this is going to go online as well. And so what we just did, not related to that, mind you, is we just launched 120 courses, upskilling courses online last week.
Yeah, wow. That's phenomenal.
By the way, the members of your group, for those that are interested, if they want to beta test that at no charge, those 120 courses, if they want to beta test them and give us some feedback, they can do that.
Yeah, wow. Okay, yeah, thank you. That'd be great. I'll do a post after this as well, just to recover that for everyone. But that'd be phenomenal. Thanks, Rick.
That's a pleasure. I might just relocate my seat. I'm dropping and dropping and dropping. I'm with you again.
All good.
You know, like Jim Carrey and no, hang on. Which movie was that? It was the new one of Get Smart. The seat just goes down and down and down.
Yeah. Steve Carell.
Yeah.
No, awesome. Well, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, 120 courses, that's obviously jam-packed with information. So it's going to be so helpful for everyone to just learn more about business. Because if that's happening, then Rob just goes, and that's the business buzz. Yeah, we with our new podcast coming out, when a lot of information gets dropped, we talk about the business buzz, and then we have a little B sound that plays in the background.
All right.
Yeah, so that's funny.
I haven't seen that before.
It's a new thing. So we're actually getting a digital radio show, and that'll be launching, be live in about 2 weeks. So Rob and I we're co-hosts.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah, thanks.
I think this might be my first Facebook Live interview like this, by the way.
Yeah, fantastic. So new things for everyone. Awesome. Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. Yeah, so I mean, Rick, I mean, some fantastic value here about everything about why startups fail, about keeping on top of finances, things like that. So, I mean, I guess with the new launch of these courses, I'd love to dive into that a bit more in regards to what you offer and how you can help others with their businesses. So the 120 courses. So is that something that different people have done, or is that something you and your team have created? How's that come about?
The marketing team and all of us have created that. That is a separate thing to the business ownership. That's more for the corporate end of town, or SMEs that might have a number of staff and they want to upskill. So that's very, very different to the sort of knowledge. Sorry, the knowledge there in all of those courses. Business owners should have all of that anyway as a baseline. But and some of it is, if you like, I would classify it as upskilling, or it may be for a HR manager or a particular team leader who can put his team through these courses and monitor what's going on, because each one of them is supported by a book and a training manual and quizzes which are online. That's nothing like the 3-day business ownership practitioner certification course, which incidentally doesn't stop at the 3 days. It's 3 days face-to-face. It's really hard. It's very intensive. And what we do after that, there's 8 books and 8 lots of quizzes they have to do within the next month to submit. Yeah. And they must get more than 50% in order to get the certificate of, as opposed to attendance, certificate of pass and completion.
That's fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense.
So there's a lot of stuff, but it's 1 month, and they have to read the book, because this book is, I was talking before about the 5 revenue variables. Yeah. And if you look at the number 2, which is sales, I mean, it depends who you listen to, but one of the top reasons why businesses fail is because the business owner or the people around him can't sell. Yeah. Now, selling, and you know lots and lots about sales, right? Sales 101, you can't rely on just that anymore.
Exactly.
You got to think about being good at negotiating. You've got to understand persuasion. You've got to be able to build rapport quickly and all that sort
So
of
many
stuff. Right? There's
variables.
so
Yeah,
many more
absolutely.
things around. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the four primary types of our identities, there's basically savvy, leadership, authentic, and passionate. They're the four primary. So I have
Yeah.
an acronym for that called SLAP.
Okay.
So if Muhammad Ali meets Mother Teresa, it's a mismatch. So 75%, up to three-quarters of all sales don't happen because of the either inability of the person selling themselves, their product or service or otherwise, to match the other person.
Definitely. You almost have to be like a
Right?
chameleon of sorts.
Absolutely. And, if you think about it, how many times have you had a shopping experience in the last 12 months which was so fantastic that you went and told 5 other people about it? It hardly ever happens.
Well, that's it. I mean,
And
it's
if I
not.
asked 50 people in a room,
Yeah, I mean, not many realize that if you go to a restaurant, the waitresses are in essence salespeople, and if you go to a retail store, those people there are salespeople. It's no matter where you are, everyone in business is a salesperson. It's just that there's different levels of selling, and I guess different levels of aggression to
correct.
those sales.
I had to go and meet a law firm last week. And when I walked in, my first question to all the lawyers was, so who was the person in sales? And one hand went up.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So everyone in every business is in sales. And and the thing about the book is that it talks about lifetime profit value, LPV.
Yep.
And a lot of business owners, when you look at the pathway that from those revenue variables I was telling you before, all the way down to impact experience and post purchase experience, the majority of businesses fail to succeed immensely in the follow-up process, which is the final step of the sale. Most people think the sale finishes when the goods have been sold. And really, that's just the beginning of the ongoing long-term relationship, right? You know
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah. On the back
But,
end, it's
I
so
mean,
important for the upsell.
yeah, exactly. And how many times have you been to a doctor and you've been crook, and then the next day the doctor calls you and asks you how you're going? It happened to me once.
Yeah. Very, very rarely.
Once. That's right. And that's experience. So, we call that a magic moment. And magic moments are free. And we can all offer them in our business, with a thank you note or a phone call. And what do? Most people, they will resort to emailing. Yeah, but back to your question in relation to the course that we've curated. What's happening now is because we went to StartCon and we did a talk to 300 odd people,
Yeah.
we exhibited there. We've been approached by quite a number now of startup groups and incubators and co-working spaces to go and present a one-day version of that workshop.
Nice.
Workshop it into a one-day event.
Yep.
And then I just got an email this morning from one right up north near Coffs Harbour, and they want to give away that as a prize to all the startup pitches, to which I'll be one of the judges.
Yeah. Wow.
So it goes, there's a one-day version. Of course, we can't cover all that in one day. And then that if you like, funnels into the 3-day ownership course. And after that, if they want to go further, if they're really serious, we have a thing called the SME Mastery. So it's either the Mastery or it's the Accelerator. So for a startup, they should go through the Accelerator, which is a 3-month, 1 night a week thing. And the Mastery is a 6-day on top of those 3. But in that Mastery, half of that is spent around the individual in terms of their communication skills and in terms of their ability to be confident and be ready to go boom like that, like what you do. I mean, you're such a good communicator. You can
Thanks,
just get
Rick.
up on stage. I love your videos. I think
I appreciate that.
you know, it's fantastic, and you know, the skills that you have are very hard to obtain, and you can't get them in a 3-hour course.
Yeah, I do
So
appreciate that.
you've got to do a lot of work in front of the camera, like you do, like I don't, but you do, and you look very good on camera.
No, you're doing great. Yeah,
And
you're
I
doing
reckon
fantastic.
thank you, but I reckon you could sell ice to the Eskimos.
Well, maybe in certain situations, but we'll say that for another time.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a bit about the course. I mean, it covers everything you need to know to ensure. I mean, I've got testimonials from people that have said things like they've learned more in going through those. It actually used to be 2 days, now it's 3.
Yep.
Than they did by going and getting a master's of business administration. And I'm not saying that to blow my trumpet. It's just a simple fact that those courses don't hit the mark.
Yeah.
If you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you go into business, and then you end up with all this stress and no money. And the majority of startups go back into the workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. I did that early 20s. I think it was like 20, maybe 23. Where I left, I had a bunch of savings. I left, tried a business, didn't happen. So I went back to the workforce for a few years. But it's trial and error. And if you've got that drive to have a business, then you just keep at it until something sticks.
Yeah, and there's no shame in that. I mean,
absolutely,
97% of every business in Australia. The 97% of every business in Australia is a small business, and that's more than 2 million. But 62% of those businesses are sole traders, which means that ultimately it's going to be very hard for them to create a scalable business which they can build up and sell unless they grow.
Yeah.
Right? So here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. 75% of those businesses are only employing 1 to 4 people. So the majority of small businesses overwhelmingly employ less than 4 people. And they never get beyond that curve, if you will. It's very hard to break that 1 million ceiling and then continue to scale the business. So ideally, I'm just thinking of some examples. Let's take dealing with lawyers. Now, we started our own law firm last week, right?
Yeah.
In collaboration with an affiliate, if you will, called Innovest Legal. Now, I just met that lawyer this morning, and she said, I went out to dinner on Saturday night and I met someone that had a matter. And unlike the way I was before, since going through some of this training, she said, I was able to talk that customer into a scenario where I'm now going to go and meet that client to sit down and talk business about trying to bring them on. So that was not her mindset entrepreneurially prior, because before she had a job and was put into a pigeonhole, and the company would do its marketing and bring the leads into her, and then she would just be, lawyer. But now it's lawyer entrepreneur.
Yep.
That makes sense?
Absolutely. No matter what industry we're in, we're salespeople first. No, it's great points. Like, it's some really valid information. And no matter what industry we're in, we're salespeople first, and then we're our industry second. Or as I've realized to now, working in the digital space, we're salespeople / marketers first, and then our industry second.
Yes. And you're doing a very good job of it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, but no, Rick, this has been phenomenal. Like, I really appreciate you coming on. This has been some phenomenal information. Everyone that jumps on the replay later and everyone that listens to it on iTunes, no doubt they're going to be able to soak a lot of this information up. No doubt the notepad and the pen will be getting brought out so they can, take some notes. So I guess With the last question I have for you, so with everything that's been going on and with your businesses for the courses and everything else, what are the best links or what are the best ways for people to get in contact with you or with your business so then that way you can assist them in helping grow their business?
The website is innovests.sme.com.au, INNOVESTSME.com.au, and in there is all of our contact details. They can contact us, they can PM me or PM you, and we can send them a suite of the different things that we do. I'm happy to give away loads and loads of info.